Yeah, so I've been with AAA Appliance Service Center for about 14 years now. Prior to being in the appliance industry, I was actually in architecture. So I went to University of Illinois for architecture. So I've worked at large corporations and saw kind of that.
Hey, I didn't know this. Wait, you're an Illini?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm an Illini.
Yeah, so I went to school there for architecture and I worked at like Crate and Barrel and I worked at Sears and I worked at Walgreens, but I ended up leaving because they needed help at this company. I'm third generation. This is kind of what I was not going to do growing up was I wasn't going to go into the family business. But they needed somebody to help them do accounting and advertising and marketing. And so with my design and math background, I was like, yeah, I can absolutely help. And then I was kind of just waiting it out to see what was going to happen with the economy at the time because it was about like 2010. So it was still after the '08 like recession area.
Sure.
So I ended up coming on and I started ground up. So they had me on the phones. I was a regular CSR of that kind of stuff. And I really learned the ropes of every element to the business. And I was able to kind of bring up and bring in technology because I came from a technology background and a technology world where we were using, 3D modeling and Photoshop and AutoCAD and Revit and things like that. So I was very versed in like that kind of world. And when you step out into a world of like things like on paper and handwritten, you're like, what is happening here? So when I came on, I really wanted to utilize the technology that was out there, make things a better experience for customers. So that's kind of where I started. And then I got very involved in the industry in general through the United Servicers Association, or now it's called United Appliance Servicers Association. I became a board member. I helped organize and run the national events, the national conventions, as well as the regional events to make sure that we're not only getting technical support to the technicians that are doing the work and making sure that they're professional and efficient at what they're doing, but also on the business end to make sure like companies know how to run a business, not just handle the tools. Because a lot of people think that just because you can do that work, it means that you can run a business on your own or run a business doing that work. And then all of a sudden you feel, oh, wait a minute, I actually like doing the work, but now I'm not doing that anymore. So we also kind of talk about and teach that on the national level as well as we used to do it on a regional level. Once I left the board, they kind of discontinued the regional programs. Not sure if they're going to start that again, but we'll see. So, but I did get involved and I still do teach classes with the board. I'm not a board member anymore. But I do still teach the classes at the ASTI convention. So we were just there in January and I taught a couple classes there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, what does your typical day look like?
So my typical day actually, I do a lot of time blocking. So my time blocking is this day is focused on this day is focused on this day is focused on this. So depending on the day of the week, it can really change. Wednesdays are always my meeting day, so we do all of our strategy sessions on those days. So leadership meetings, following up on stuff, making sure that we're making progress on things. If we
Podcast.
things, yes, exactly. So this is kind of our day to kind of do all of that type of stuff. The other days are really the action items. So where I'm actually doing activities. So accounting is typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then Mondays I typically leave for customer focused things. Um, and so those are all about the really following up with customers, going through customer reviews, letting our technicians know where their stats are at, how many reviews they got, things like that. So those are my Monday days. And then Fridays, we do operational trainings. We'll also do kind of like a strategy session with our admin team and our customer service team. So like if we're going to make changes with anything, again, based on the stuff like maybe I learned on Monday with the customer feedback and then on Wednesday with our management team. And then on Friday, we kind of go over that stuff. And then I also do some of my other project things that we're doing. I typically leave my Fridays for those too.
I guess before we really dig into your business and some of the challenges, maybe talk a little bit about if you don't have some examples, or you see what your competitors are doing. What are some of the trends that are in your industry? What are people doing that you guys might like to be doing that you're not, or you're competing in certain ways that are allowing you to win more often in the marketplace? What is kind of causing some of those trends?
Well, one of the things that I think most people would be surprised by is when you think about appliance repair, most think they assume that it's very similar to HVAC or electricians or plumbers, and it's actually more closely related to auto repair. So when you actually think of HVAC, a lot of the parts are very similar. You don't have a lot of manufacturer variety, and they're all typically the same part. No matter which version you're getting, it's going to be the same compressor, it's going to be the same refrigerant, it's going to have the same kind of things. Very simple, basic things. You can go to a hardware store and pick up really anything that you need for
Yeah.
plumbing. It doesn't matter what the manufacturer is. But when you're dealing with appliances, appliances are very similar to vehicles. So when you're dealing with a Whirlpool dryer, that's very different from a Miele dryer that is very high-end European specialist. So the costs are going to vary. So you're going to deal with, you have Mercedes prices and you have Toyota prices. You're going to see a difference, not only in the cost of the unit itself, but also in the parts, in the maintenance, in the service, in the repairs. It's all going to cost more in the lifespan of the unit. It might have a longer lifespan because we're seeing just the manufacturers want to have another bite at the apple, as it were. So the longevity of appliances, like 20 years ago, you would have, I can tell you from personal experience, I'm sure everybody else listening probably has like a refrigerator from the 90s that is still
Absolutely.
running fine, right?
I have one in my garage.
Right, exactly. And it's great. You're like, these appliances ran like unbelievably well. Well, the manufacturers thought, okay, well, I can't sell more appliances if they last 20 years, can I? So now they're doing things where they're actually designing them to fail, just like with an iPhone, where the iPhone's going to start to degrade after about 3 years because they want you to replace it. So the manufacturers are starting to do that purposefully.
That should be criminal.
So after, and the way that they're made, and this is not unusual. You can look this up. It's not private information. They're making them so they're only lasting a certain amount of time so that you can immediately, once your warranty expires, they'll sell you extended warranty. And then once that warranty expires, you're going to buy a new one because you
Yeah.
want the latest and greatest features, or you need to replace it at this point because it's not worth repairing when the warranty expired or whatever the situation is. So it's turning into that environment. And a lot of times the manufacturer gets to dictate a lot of things. So even though you have like policies like right to repair, there are a lot of restrictions and controls that the manufacturer has where it limits your choice. It limits the technician's ability to actually service a product because if they don't agree to contract terms, that manufacturer won't let them service it. So you might have, Joe down the street that's like, yeah, he works out of his house and he's going to do it for really, really cheap, but he's not going to have access to the technical documentation that's required to reprogram the electronic boards in your unit. So he'll put in that part and that part will fail immediately because the unit needs special codes from the manufacturer. So it's very similar to like a vehicle where they have computers in them and the manufacturer might require you to work with a specific dealership or a specific service center, and that service center can access that computer to reset it. So it's very similar in that way where it's becoming almost more like that as well with a lot of, the extended warranties and the additional policies and things like that.
And so does that, with the complexity within your service line,
Mhm.
does that create opportunity for you, create challenges for you, a little bit of both?
It allows companies, I think, to silo themselves, but it's a higher risk. But there could be also a higher reward. So where there might be companies that have these particular partnerships, just like a dealership kind of situation where they link to a particular partnership with a brand. And then they are the only ones that can service that brand in a particular area. So they're going to get 100% of the volume of that work. But if they don't meet those requirements that they'll now that their primary client hits, then they risk losing that client and they will go out of business because that is their client. That is their only client or predominantly their client.
Right, sure. That's definitely a risk.
Exactly. So, and then that kind of allows that manufacturer to control the market in different ways. So it becomes a little bit of a strain on the market in general. And it also kind of locks in a particular partnership. So it's good for the company because sometimes the manufacturer provides certain access, technical documentation, training, different things like that. So there's benefits to it. But there's also shortcomings because typically any work that you do with a manufacturer partnership is actually done at a loss, which most people don't realize that if you have a company out doing warranty service on your part on your appliance, that company is actually losing money on doing that work most often. So that's
And is it
actually
a loss leader or
it's
are they doing it
typically loss
intentionally?
leader. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the idea is that it's a loss leader. So that's why a lot of companies like Sears would come into the house with the warranty and then try to sell you a whole catalog of different
sure.
things or packages because typically it's a loss leader when you're dealing with those different types of partnerships. Now, if you don't lock in with that and you might have multiple partnerships. So you might lock in different things, then you'll get like if it's out of warranty, you'll get those referrals that it's out of warranty because that manufacturer will refer you. So there again, it's kind of a loss leader in that way. There's some companies like us where we like to have a variety. We want to be able to, if you have a Samsung washer, but you have a Bosch dishwasher and you have a Kenmore refrigerator, we want to be able to service everything in your home. So we don't silo our technicians. We don't identify like this technician can only do washers and this technician can only do cook. And a lot of other companies will do things like that. Or we don't want to be manufacturer specific, where we want to be able to say, okay, we'll work on the Samsung, but we'll also work on the Kenmore, we'll also work on the Bosch. So we try to do things a little differently, but that's just us. It adds complication because the technicians then have to be trained on how to do all of those things.
Sure.
So that's where it gets a little bit
But
complicated.
it probably allows you to have a different customer base than
It
some other
does.
folks might have, right? Because you have the ability to do different things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it's
No,
just
for
how
sure. So
depending on the company and how they enter the market.
I guess if I look at it, what is from a high level kind of what is working well for you right now and what is not, right? So
Mhm.
what are the things that, if you could change or would change versus what are the things that you're doing really well right now and that are working? And where do you guys need to kind of focus your attention, to grow your business or to become more profitable?
Well, one of the things that we're exploring right now is actually doing a membership option. So we're doing some surveys
Interesting.
right now for clients and existing clients to get an idea of what they're looking for those types of memberships. So we offer special features and different discounts. So not only would you be getting, because a lot of times you end up buying for example, you'll buy an extended warranty, but then you don't know if you're ever really going to use it. So you might be out $350 to $600 in addition to like buying a new appliance, and you don't know if you're ever really going to use it.
Right.
And it doesn't cover everything either. So you might run into a situation, they're going to say, oh, well, it's not covered. And then you're like, well, why did I give you all that money at the beginning? Which is always fun with insurance, right? So what we're looking to do is offer customers not only a maintenance contract, because not everybody, some people are just like, you know what, I'll do it myself. You know, sometimes they're just going to do it themselves, and that's fine. But we want to offer the opportunity for you to possibly get discounts on service, do the maintenance where we will actually come out, and then do other additional benefits as well. So that's something that we're looking at doing to roll out to be competitive because really our main focus is a couple of our promises and our main focus is we focus on the customer experience and what the customer really wants. And we want one of my promises is that I'm never going to do something to our customers that I hate being done to us. So where, you're getting all the email advertising and the text messages constantly, where one of the things that we promise our customers is that we're never going to mail you, like we're not going to email you marketing. We're not going to text you marketing. If anything from us, you're only going to get stuff related to your work order because we know you are busy. and you don't have time for this stuff and you've got enough on your plate, and we try to make things as simple and easy to get you back to normal as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I know we spoke previously. You said one of the things that you're really focused on as well was talent acquisition.
Hmm.
And so maybe talk a little bit about, that particular topic, both good and bad, again, challenges that
Yes.
you might have within talent acquisition, as well as, maybe on your turnover rates, if you're how you guys retain folks, what are those, key, initiatives that you guys have to address those?
Yeah. So talent acquisitions, especially with our industry in general, is that you might have like a school for HVAC, or you might be able to go to school to become an electrician. There's not many school programs or programs out there for appliance repair. So
Mhm.
a lot of the talent that we're getting, they have experience in different industries entirely, and we have to kind of cross train them or train them, or they work for one company and then job hop to different companies or move states and different things like that. So unfortunately, there isn't really a certification for appliances. There isn't a specific degree for it. There's not like programs. So it becomes very difficult to find people in this industry. There is a high demand for it. People can get paid very well as an appliance repair technician if they want to get into it. There's several programs around the country that you can do where you can go. There's Dyer in Texas, and then there's in Ohio, there's Fred's Appliance Academy, where you can go. It's like a 6 week program, and you can learn all the different appliances. And I guarantee anybody that does those programs, they will have at least 10 offers around the country, because there are a lot of companies that need qualified technicians that can work on everything. And they're really aging out. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
older people that were
So
in.
did they, like you said, they don't need a certification. So like
Mhm.
you said, you're not getting an HVAC certification.
Correct.
But you need the skills. So
Mhm.
these are more training of skill sessions than they are a
Correct.
certification session.
Exactly.
Uh, but are you offering those internally as well, or are you requiring those on the way in?
So different companies do different things. So I know that there's a couple of companies that will bring you in without any experience. Like they might take somebody that's an auto mechanic and they'll bring them in and they'll go through an online training program that there's a few out there. So like Samurai Appliance is one of them, which is very intensive. Fred's Appliance Academy also does an online training. So they'll do an online training program and then they'll ride along with another technician, just like a normal apprentice, and they'll do an
Yeah.
apprenticeship kind of situation. So that's very often how people get into this industry is they start in one completely different field and then they get trained from somebody else as an apprentice.
Yeah, no, that's great. Um, so if I again go back to our previous discussion, um, the growth part of this, you guys are, you guys are focused on trying to grow the business over the next few years. I know you said you were currently at like 14 or so technicians looking to go to 20 to 30. Is the talent acquisition the piece? Is that's holding you back? What's inhibiting your growth to get to those 20 to 30?
Revenue is always going to be a factor because our margins are not significant in our industry to, where you might have like jewelry where they have like a 400% margin. Our industry as a standard, our industry standard is about 12% margin. So there's not a ton of a profit margin to do reinvestments and stuff. So it
Yeah.
takes a little bit longer to roll out changes or invest back into the company to do things. And there's a lot of overhead. You have vehicles, so you have fleet vehicles that you have to replace, you have to maintain, which has a high cost and things like that. So just getting through that, that's always going to be a stumbling block for growth in any business. But one of the biggest limitations is the talent. So because there isn't a huge pool of candidates that you're dealing with, and you have to invest a lot, because any new technician coming in, you're going to expect it to take 6 months before they're going to be riding along or riding on their own and doing their own calls. That's a long time to have somebody on payroll that's not generating revenue. So
No, absolutely.
and then, yeah, so, and finding technicians that already have that skill set is also very, very difficult. There's
And
different.
are the technicians driving revenue, meaning
Yes,
they're not finding revenue, they're doing revenue.
correct.
They're fulfilling your contracts or your customer, calls, right? And you
Hmm.
guys schedule and they'll go do if you guys aren't contracted. But what's creating the revenue? If you say so, two things. If you Is it a build it to come? Build it and they will come, right? If you could build the technicians, would you build the revenue easily, or do you build the revenue first and then build the technician base? Because, like you said, the margin isn't there for the reinvestment. So it sounds like the latter versus the former, meaning that your revenue is needing to increase before you increase the staffing and the equipment and all the other stuff.
That is 100% correct. And you also have to have the client base to hire that technician. So the rule is generally for us, it depends on how many days out we're booked. Because when you have an appliance out, you don't want to wait a week for service. So if we look at how many days we're booked out, and then we look to hire to backfill that so we can address service within 24 hours. So if we can fill that same day or we can fill that next day, then we're in a good spot because we want to make sure that we can get to our clients very quickly, especially with commercial businesses and things like that. Like if, your fryer's down at your business, you need somebody right away. So for that type of thing, we're definitely looking at making sure we have the right marketing, making sure that we're doing that we're building the right partnerships, that we're fulfilling our obligations and we're meeting our contract obligations and the KPIs that our partners require of us.
Sure.
And sometimes it is seasonal. So just like with HVAC, it can be very seasonal. Appliances tend to be a little bit seasonal as well. So sometimes there's just slower periods that we know kind of to expect. And that's when we try to reinvest at that time. Most companies don't spend the time to then they start cutting stuff out. And when the slower periods, that's when we reinvest in our staff and we're doing the training. We might have like a half day training with one of the manufacturers, or we'll pull them off and do ride-alongs. So like they'll be riding with another technician to do kind of apprenticeship, but to learn a different skill set that they don't already have.
And so, what does your marketing and sales look like today?
I don't know how best to answer that question. We do a lot of different types of marketing. We do partnerships with like local retailers where we'll do things like that. We do, we'll give them promo material and actual things to give out to their clients. So we'll do cross promotion things. We do a lot of online advertising. We're trying to start integrating. We're going to try to do a couple of new things this year. I've done things in past years where we'll do different charity donations. We'll do different activities. Like we've done like a St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and in years past we've done kind of like a Shamrock Shake thing where we'll do a kind of a pay it forward where the technicians will buy somebody behind them, like a Shamrock Shake is like a thing, and their vans are all stuff like that. The holidays, we'll decorate the vans where we put Christmas lights on them, stuff like that. So I try to do fun things that are different to catch people's eyes, not only just when because the technicians are driving around like a billboard. So
Right.
we do that. I'm trying
So
to.
is most of it word of mouth? Is it so? Do you have online presence at all? Are you doing like Facebook? Or are you doing Instagram? Do you
We
do
don't really do
LinkedIn stuff?
Instagram. We don't do, but we're trying to start doing that. Like that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on this year is going to be doing more actual video content, and actual more building out content for the website and different things like that. So, but we try different things periodically. I'm always trying new things because things change constantly when it comes to that stuff. But we do a combination of a lot of different things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. I think it's important to definitely do things on a variable basis and make sure that you're able to adjust and be flexible and adjust your marketing and advertising and sales plans. But headcount is an issue, right? And so I guess maybe that's a nice way to transition into are you guys using technology today? Have you used any AI? Things like that the market is moving towards. Have you seen your competitors? Are they doing it? Just curious on kind of the whole automation technology play, and how that might affect your business today, or certainly going forward in the future.
Yeah. A lot of other companies that I know in the industry, they have moved to outsourcing like their CSRs. So they'll outsource to the Philippines. And some of them are outsourcing now to AI. So when you're calling in, you're talking to an AI agent.
Sure.
So some competitors are doing that. We've tested and been looking at using AI to kind of triage a little bit, where I'm sure a normal person is going to be like, oh, here's my model number. This is the problem, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
We've tested it out. It's actually not very accurate and it gives the wrong part numbers all the time. So,
Yeah.
and just like I was talking about, where it's very related to, it's very manufacturer specific. And not only is it manufacturer specific, but each model number has its own revision number. So the model number itself might be different. So you might have a Kenmore refrigerator, but if it's this model and this revision, it's going to be a different part number than this same model number, different revision number, or a completely different model number. So it's so varied that a lot of times when you might look something up, it's going to say, oh, it's this part number. I guarantee you it'll be wrong. So I'm always like for it, like, oh, here's walk through some steps, but never trust specifics from AI because I guarantee you it'll be wrong. But what we have started to use with AI has been helping with back end stuff. So helping with strategy, AI almost can a little bit remove the CEO, honestly, more than it can a CSR, to be completely honest. It can help you strategize through a lot of different stuff and like look at financials. You can upload P&Ls and stuff like that and be like, hey, this is what's going on. But what I find that doesn't work and customers don't like is they don't like you outsourcing to the Philippines for the phone calls. They don't like you outsourcing to AI because that really is your sales team, especially when it comes to field service, because your first point of contact and you actually selling the job and you building that relationship starts on the phone. So
Yeah.
if you outsource that, you've lost the plot
Yeah.
to us. For us, that's what we feel. But
Right.
the helping on the back end, even helping like build scripts for our CSRs or asking the right questions, like to
Mhm.
problem solve when a customer's on the phone that says, hey, I'm running into this problem. I might have AI say, hey, these are the questions that I need to ask next
Oh,
for the.
absolutely. I mean, I think all the call sales analyzers and they're wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
and just the note takers and the ability
Yes.
to focus on a call and not have to be constantly scraping down notes and having to remind yourself, oh my God, I just missed a 30-second conversation that was going on. Instead, my computer's now doing that for me, right?
Right.
And then you can go back and look and
Right.
see exactly some of the points that you may have missed
Yes.
or you were more focused on and you have, but now you have the reminder to them. And
Yes.
I think it's really just kind of amazing the way the market's moving. And certainly, and that's where, our company is looking to do stuff like that and help folks with, with growth and lead gens and all sorts of different, whether it's inventories and things like that. But, super interesting, right? And that's exactly why, having these calls is really important to learn from folks like yourself to see how things are either being applied or were tried and applied and failed,
Yes.
right? And had pain points and right. So
One shortfall is the the idea is that everything we're always trying to be more efficient and
right.
we want to always try to avoid duplication of work.
Mhm.
So a missing point that I think can happen in a lot of industries and a lot of different platforms when you're talking about technology is you have one system that doesn't talk to another system. And now you have to
Absolutely.
deal with that manual transaction here where you
Yeah.
have to then take the information that's in this system and then bring it into this
It's
system.
your ERP. It's not talking to your accounting. It's not talking to
Exactly.
finance. If you got QuickBooks or whatever you
Exactly.
have. So there are absolutely ways to address those things in today's age. But it's look at its time and effort and a little money. Frankly, I mean, it's not nothing's ever for free. But doing those is like you say is the mentality of trying to get your business to a higher profitability, better margins. Because if you had better margins, if you can go from 12% to 15 or 18, again, you have more resources internally to grow, right, and to reinvest in the business. And yeah, and so I think that's really a great point that you make. So are you guys? Where would you say from an efficiency that if you had to say this was the largest piece of inefficiency in our business, this would be the thing I had to tackle first. Where would that be?
Um,
That's a hard question, I know, because it's not
yeah.
always like glaringly obvious, but. I'm just
No, I
curious.
can tell you exactly where it is. I know exactly where it is. One of the biggest things in our industry in general, like, is that we always aim for first call complete. We know the customer wants us to fix it the first time that we come out there. We want to fix it the first time that we come out there, but there's a lot of missing information. So it's not always possible to order the right parts or bring the right things. And because, again, like I said, it's so specific, it's like it becomes very challenging. And that is just a general industry wide thing that if you're specialized, like we were talking a little bit before, like if you have a special contract with the manufacturer and you're only doing that one manufacturer, you can stock enough
Yeah.
parts, you have that partnership locked down, you can pre-screen and get more first call completes. But when you do a wider variety, it becomes harder and harder to do that.
So you're ordering to need.
Yes. So a lot of times you do that because you can't stock everything for all of the products. So that becomes a limitation. The other problem runs into just repeat visits. So let's say you have a call that you completed a month ago and it's under warranty. Now it's having a different issue entirely. Well, sending a technician out to say, oh, it needs a different part. Now we need this part, or no, it's the same part. It just failed. Like it was just a bad part. And we have to replace that part again. Then having to send him back out there. So again, it's that multiple visits
Yeah.
where
That's
that
costly.
that's always the inefficiency in the company. That's always where the pitfalls are.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, inventory is always a money pit. So inventory management is always super
Where are your turns today?
and can significantly be a detriment to efficiency. But yeah, so those are the big ones.
Do you guys track your inventory turns? I'm assuming. Yeah. I mean, because look at it. If there are slow moving parts, obsolescence, all that, right? You've got to
Yep.
be on top of that. Otherwise, like you say, it's just eating away at your balance sheet.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. No, super interesting. Where do you guys want your business to be in 3 to 5 years? What would it look like?
I would say that I would actually love to partner up with, I know that this might be a controversial opinion, but I'm actually of the opinion where I would love to partner with the right PE company because I know that there's a lot of investment in this industry to do the right kind of investments to build up a lot of the infrastructure that could improve the efficiencies with the communication of different platforms and then to expand into different markets to find the right kind of processes, systems, and things like that. So that way everything becomes a little bit more streamlined and universal. And we can then expand into different markets. We can start to, again, we're never going to say that we're going to dominate a particular market because people deserve choice and some of it we can't control. So if you have this brand and that brand has this partnership, okay, respect it, okay? Because sometimes if you join that partnership, you can't service other brands. And so, again,
No, but what you get, like you say, I think through either merger or acquisition or any of those strategies, you get a different management team now that is over a larger pool of revenue producers, and so you're basically having synergies of the management teams, right? So if you have two companies of your size and you put them together, you could reduce some of that headcount, right? And have more efficiencies there. And, again, which leads to more margin scaling these businesses, right? As we talk. And so, and then it de-risks the business, right? So if you go outside of one geographic area into others, you start to have, different dynamics within different jurisdictions. And so, those, because things change in certain locations. It's not always perfect trends across the entire United States or Canada or this way, right? So I think those strategies are always good for folks, and the hardest thing is figuring out when and where, and are you ready? Are your systems ready? Because I think, in the end, the last thing you want to do is an acquisition when your systems aren't ready to be integrated, right? And then it becomes a complete mess.
yes.
So getting the right systems, the right things put in place, as we talked automation and other things, that you could scale upon those in order to do those acquisitions. Yeah.
Yes. And so for us in the next 3 to 5 years, if we either find the right partnership to allow us to scale, to improve our systems and processes, to document them in a better way or more efficient way, that way we can roll out to different areas, different marketplaces,
Mhm.
or we can do more of that sales of like building better partnerships that are um, uh, more have a better financial return on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's so smart. I mean, it's not easy. It never is, but you know what? It's worth it. But it's worth it, right? In the end, if you do it right, usually it is worth it. Getting that scale, there's a reason to get scales of economies, as they say, right? Because it does help. Where your inventory costs go down, your purchase pricing power goes up, all of it, right? Just does help. Like I say, any synergies you get across, acquisitions or mergers, those are taking efficiencies right to the bottom line. Yeah. Yeah. No, crazy. Well, listen, I think that's really where I had us today. Would love to hear if there's any other topics that you might like to talk about. I'm happy to stay on and go through, if there are certain areas you'd like to discuss, I'm happy to go in those directions. Um, So when you're competing with your larger, as you scale this thing to 20 to 30, I guess that's a good follow-up. As you're scaling this to 20 or 30 technicians, how big is that compared to the guys you're competing against that are more regional players?
So our average size for an appliance repair company, last time I checked, was about 6 technicians. So that's the average. It's within like 3 to 10 technicians is like typically that range is a normal or the most common size appliance repair company. There's a lot of solo guys, they're one-man shops kind of thing. Typically, you're going to have one major player in a particular region that's going to have a larger volume of technicians that are 20 plus technicians.
So it would give you a little more power than against some of the smaller guys, a little more area to cover,
Yes.
touch points.
And every one of the most important things for manufacturers specifically is they want every zip code covered. So they make sure that if they sell a product in a particular area, they want to make sure that that person or that owner of that appliance can get service to make sure that they're not going to have a negative opinion about that brand. So that's always their focus. So if we
Yeah,
can expand territory or we can expand coverage and we can do that, allows us flexibility to build those better partnerships.
excellent. Um, we talked a little bit about operations. Do you guys do KPIs? Do you have dashboards? What do you track? How does that look?
Um, so one of one of the things that I believe personally and from just general business books that I've read over the years, they always talk about like a lot of different KPIs. But one of the things that happens is we get overwhelmed, and that's the, paralysis by analysis kind of situation.
Yep. Sure.
So, where as owners, you have to look at a lot of different things. You do.
Yes.
You don't get a full picture from one number. But when
Nope.
you're talking about your team, they need to be given 2 numbers only. So a leading and a lagging indicator, and that's it. Or just one number that they can focus on. Because if you give them the list of like tons of different KPIs, they don't know what to pay attention to. They don't know what to focus on.
Mhm.
So I always like to aim for like if you have a team, that team has give that you manage the objective and say the objective is we want 0 missed calls. So this quarter I want 0 missed calls. So then we're only looking at that one number of I don't want to see a missed call. How did we do? And everybody's watching that, and then all the things that they're part of, they're focused on making sure that that's so when you're talking about like a CSR team, I'm only working on them for that number. So that also, just by working on that one number, also means how many rings, how quickly they're answering the phone, making sure that they're getting back to people right away, different things like that. They're wrapping up their calls, they're not staying on the phone forever, that they're staying available, things like that. So all of a sudden, that one number kind of is very fully encompassing. With the technicians, I might give them different numbers, like I want you to be focused on this number of completes per day.
Right. So how many stops, how many jobs you get complete? Yeah. As I mentioned with our portfolio company, RIS, we would do the same thing. And
Yeah.
they would have to have a minimum of 10 stops, and then they get bonuses for everyone after that, right? But get your 10 stops
Yes.
as a minimum for a day. And if you get
Yes.
more than that in, you're going to make a lot more money every day.
Yes.
And those were the kind of programs we put in place.
Yes.
Do you track them through apps as far as GPS? How do you schedule them?
Yeah. So we use a field service management platform. So our field service management platform is what keeps everything. So that's all of our customer database, all of the work orders, handles dispatching, inventory, all that stuff. So it's also integrated with our fleet tracking. So we're tracking the technician's phone location. So he's sharing that location, but we're also tracking the vehicle's fleet movement as well. We have a combination of ways to do that, and our system does all of that reporting for us. So if I want to know how many work orders he has, how many are completed, how long did it take from start to finish, things like that, I can pull
Yeah.
that kind of reporting out of that system.
Yeah, right on. What about estimating jobs? How do you guys go about, if you get a request for bid, how do you guys go about addressing your pricing and making sure you're carrying your margins? And what do you do there?
So some companies do pricing differently. This is where it kind of there's kind of a universal standard in the industry, but different companies do it differently. So it can kind of get tricky for customers. And I wish there was a universal standard, but there's some companies, and like for commercial, for example, commercial, for whatever reason, they're still on a hourly labor rate situation. So they'll typically, if you have a commercial appliance, you're going to pay like a trip fee, and then they're going to charge per hour for everything after that. Where in residential, you're typically going to pay a trip fee. So some companies will charge you a trip fee plus a diagnostic fee, or they're going to charge you a service call, or they're going to charge you a trip fee plus so it's always kind of tied together a little differently. But we use, and we recommend everybody in the industry use, a flat rate labor guide. So very similar to auto mechanics, again, where they'll have a standard flat rate. So this is how long it should take for this job to do based on the part that you're getting replaced on this particular product, because it can be very different if you're replacing a gasket on a front load LG versus a front load Electrolux. Some of them you have to take the whole cover off.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then some of them, yeah, you just take the door off, you're fine. It's super easy. So it depends on the one that you have. So we use a national price guide called the Blue Book. So there's an appliance Blue Book, and it's flat rate. It takes the national rates of what it should cost. And the reason that we believe that that's the right way to do it is because, let's say, if you're an unqualified technician, you've never done this repair before, are you going to take longer or less time or more time? You're going to take more time if you are not experienced.
No,
So
that's right.
you're going to pay more for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing.
That's right.
Somebody that knows what they're doing, they're going to be in and out really quickly, and that's the way it should be. Versus some customers that'll be like, oh, he was only here in and out and I had to pay this amount of money. That's right. Because you paid that amount of money because that technician
Is good.
spent 20 years figuring out how to do it in 15 minutes instead of 45 minutes. Yeah.
Again, you talk efficiencies. He's efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's not learning on the job.
Exactly.
He's already learned it.
Yeah. So it's fair for the business. So we're able to balance our numbers and price fairly. And then we're also fair to the customer, so that if it does take longer, they're not going to have to pay anything because it took the technician longer because he's learning or he's newer or something like that. So that's our take on it.
No, that's fantastic. Truly enjoyed the conversation and look forward to, following back up.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.